This is Grow with the Bros, hosted by Ryan and Ken Parsons, founders of the Brothers That Just Do Gutters. Welcome to another episode of Out of the Gutter, Behind the Brother. We've made every mistake in the book, so you don't have to. Our time to evolve as business owners is now. Let's grow together. All right, so on today's episode, we're going to be talking to Jonathan Mellett, who is one of our first franchisees, and we're going to be talking about the topic is if we could hit the reset button on our business. I love this question. I think it's such a, you take any area of our life or anything that we've learned, and it's like, man, if I could go back to then with what I know now, what would I do differently? So that's going to be our topic today, is if you could hit the reset button on your business, what would you do different? So John, we've got history even before business. I'd love to know how far back you remember of us even meeting, you and me, and maybe even my brother.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I was a kid. I was a little kid, like asking to feel your muscles. Oh man. I just remember both of you guys as like these super strong, like weirdly ripped people. And
lots has changed, huh?
Yeah.
Half the man I used to be.
Oh man.
Yeah, so we have history. So we knew each other for a long time. And then as we were, I think you were the first sales rep that we hired. It was either you or George that was the first sales rep that was not me or Kenny.
Yeah.
So you got involved. I don't know if you remember that or you want to share anything about that time as well.
I do. George was on before I was. And when I came in, I was young. I think when I jumped on board with you guys, I might have been 22 or 23. And then going out and doing sales and writing everything up on our forms that we had at the time, Waterflow Gutter Solutions.
Oh, yeah.
We weren't even the brothers yet. And I remember going out and our pricing was crazy. I don't know. My goals for the month were like, insane. Like honestly, if someone hit the goals that I was hitting back then that were like our target goals, they'd be fired.
Do you remember like a dollar amount? I don't even remember.
Yeah. Well, I remember there was one month where I remember my goal was 40 grand and I like had just passed it. And at that point we had these crazy incentives that I think when I finally hit my goal and you had to pay me, it was like, oh shoot, this doesn't make any sense. Because our dollar amount was so low. But I remember bumping our price up to like $4 and sometimes $4.50 a foot. And we were like, holy smokes, I can't believe we sold at that. Oh my gosh.
And then, so fast forward a little bit and, you did work in sales and then I think you moved and then that's where you kind of ventured out into some other stuff before you came back in.
Yeah. So I moved out to New Jersey, and I knew it was a stopping point with the brothers and, I was going to be jumping into, a construction company where I was basically a laborer and eventually jumped into sales because they saw that that's what I was doing prior with you guys, with Waterflow Gutter Solutions. You guys in that interim period of me working for the construction company, you changed to the Brothers That Just Do Gutters. And I remember like saying to you when I moved out to New Jersey, I told you guys I would never be back in the gutter business.
I don't remember that.
I remember it very clearly. And I don't even know why. It was just like, I just felt like I was going to be doing something else. And when I actually did move on, I met some of the other gutter companies that were in the area and I realized how good you guys actually were compared to a lot of the people that I was meeting. And I'm like, maybe there's something here. So you actually, I don't know if you remember this, but you made me pamphlets. Like you were a graphic designer. So you created these little Jonathan gutter cleaning sort of pamphlets that I would go around and I would, just knock on people's doors, passing them out. And carried a ladder on my truck that was only high enough to hit like a 10-foot roof. And I would just go doing gutter cleanings. And then the conversation went further and further. And it was about 2 weeks before I had my first son that I told you guys, let's do this. And
wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so where we were is, we just went through a recession. The whole business changed. We refocused as the brothers that just do gutters. And the idea of franchising was born. And that was Ken's idea of like, we're going to franchise this thing. And we're not going to get into all of that today. But I believe we talked about our vision enough. And I would encourage anybody listening, like when you talk about your vision out loud, other people will hear it and grab onto it. And I believe that's kind of what it was. We were talking about franchising our business and we weren't ready at the time. We did not have the franchise model. We didn't have the marketing dialed in, none of the technology, none of what it is today, none of it, but we did have the vision for it. And do you remember what it was that happened that you're like, let's do this?
Well, I think part of it, and what gave me a little bit more peace of mind was the conversation that Jeremiah in Virginia was also having the same thought process. And as we just kept, going down this rabbit hole of thinking about starting the brothers in Jersey and Virginia, I think what really stirred up the confidence or even the drive to make it want to happen was one, like I said, I saw that you guys were better than a lot of the companies and competition that I saw here in my own community. And then the other part was I think seeing a freedom of having my own thing and stepping away from the current company that I was with. And really, I mean, you guys were encouraging through the process, and enough so that you sold me on really wanting to jump into this thing. So,
yeah.
And
I do remember one of your thought process was, you know what, why go work for another company for a few years? Because you thought you might be in the ministry full time or something, but you're like, you know what, while I'm working, why don't I build something that in 5-10 years from now that I own a business that continues to pay me residual income.
Yep.
And whatever, you're a man of many talents, whatever you want to do. Was that part of the process? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I remember that big time because I was heavily involved in a brand new church plant here it was in Ocean Township High School that we were meeting. And I knew that it was going to require me to be available a lot throughout the week, obviously on Sundays, and having my own thing. It really, it did seem like that was going to open the door. Now on the flip side, because it was coming out of a recession and there was, it really seemed like even the company that I was currently with, the construction company, they were dropping off the map a little bit with the work that was on and everything. And they thought I was absolutely crazy to even think that this was an option. Mm-hmm. But we really never saw the recession, I think, impact the gutter business in a way, because, it was weird. It seemed like where a lot of other companies were affected, it seemed like the gutters were able to kind of maintain, a steady drive through that, maybe not increase. Mm-hmm. But so that definitely opened up a door for me to be able to do ministry and have my own thing that was going to be steady.
Yeah. Well, one of the main reasons Ken got into business, Ken, you remember, what Alex said way back in the day?
Yeah. Alex, he was in business since 1970. So he told me that the gutter business was recession proof, and who better than somebody who started their business in 1970, who had been through several recessions, to hear that and say, there's really something to this business. And, as we all know, gutters is a need. It's something that people need on their homes to protect it. And, people, even during the recession, they're going to do the minimal and to protect their home if there's bad things happening to it. And gutters is a very important part of the exterior of somebody's home, and at a price point that people can afford. It's not like putting a whole new roof on. So that's was his explanation of, why gutters, and it's been our experience too, even through the Great Recession of the mid 2000s, we still grew despite ourselves and the lack of knowledge that we had business at that time.
Yeah,
So.
It's true. So now we're kind of at it's about 2010, if I remember correctly, right?
Mm-hmm.
We go in as partners. We didn't franchise. We didn't have the FDD. We didn't have any of that. We go in as partners, and and I know that the whole topic, what we're working into right now is if we could hit the reset button on the business, what would we do differently? I just think it's important that we frame it because it's probably different. Everybody that we ask that is going to have slightly different answers.
Yeah.
But it's 2010. We go in on this adventure. I don't even know if it was a business venture. It was basically an adventure.
Yeah.
Together, you, us, Jeremiah, and we start going. So you kind of want to talk about like what those first couple of years were like, and then maybe we can circle back to that reset button question.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's funny going back, that's 10 years. So when I go back to that, first 3 years, I remember, where my office was like basically a little corner in my dining room that I made this like horrible desk. And I basically, I was the guy that now I talk about this type of business owner, but it's the guy wearing every single hat possible. I was answering the phones. I was doing, whatever paperwork I could possibly do. And I was, obviously sales and estimates and installs and training myself, so and really like looking back, it's amazing because technology has changed so much. Like I believe I had a flip phone when we first started. There was not an iPad to work from with a great system. I literally had to buy tons of contracts, and I think I even still have some of them that I would write by hand. I'd give them like, the pink slip and I'd keep the white one and, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny thinking back to those moments. But I think the biggest thing in my mind is just how many hats I actually wore and being on ladders and trying to answer a phone and still be OSHA proof. It's like impossible.
Okay. So now we are here. We're 10 years later.
Yeah.
When we asked that question, what would you, if you could hit the reset button, or what would you tell a younger you? Go back to 23-year-old Jonathan and, what would you do differently?
Yeah. Wait 5 years. They're going to really have this thing nailed down.
I love it. That's probably true, right? As much as you're joking, it's probably like that would have been awesome. I mean, those first few years, obviously I wouldn't, just because I know the value of going through different processes and I know that it was really good for me. But really where the business is right now compared to when I started, that really probably, if I had known, it would definitely be a different starting point for me. But I think there's a lot of different things, looking at the people who are starting now, things as simple as the vehicle that you purchase and the machine that you have. I remember the vehicle I had was, a terrible box truck with a lot of issues that tons of money went into just maintaining it and, bringing it back on the road when all the tires are bad or, it was awful. My machine was constantly giving me issues. As straight as the gutter was, there was still a lot of issues that came about. These awful metal wheels and just was giving me garbage results. But money-wise, I was just trying to go like as minimal as possible, where now I'm like, I want a great truck and a great machine so I don't have to worry about the maintenance and I don't have to worry about being out of business for a day or two because the truck is off the road. Simple little things just like that. I mean. So raising a little bit more capital, even with the systems
Absolutely.
not being what they are today, had you had a little bit more financial backing and not had to bootstrap everything to basically, get a truck, get a machine, you would definitely, if you're talking to somebody who's maybe just even thinking about going into business for themselves, is that your advice? Get capitalized?
Definitely get capitalized. I even look at it now where in the slow months, like I'm in the Northeast, where somebody who does have a franchise that's down south might not have to worry about a slow time, but there are slow times here. And having the capital would allow me to be able to not bleed out my resource and really, pull out of marketing and do a lot of things that could continue to grow the business in the slow time. When there's not the capital there and there's no money, you're really, I have to lower my dollar amount going into marketing and therefore get less leads, get less work and all that kind of stuff. So I would definitely, having a great amount of capital to start with. I remember looking back that this isn't even too long ago, maybe 5 years ago, my marketing dollars for an entire year, I think I spent $2,000.
Wow.
Like when we look back at our numbers, I'm like, how is that even possible? So, I mean, that's a huge difference now where I want to see my, 6%, or whatever going out towards marketing. Where in the past it was not even like 0.2%,
Wow.
It was like crazy.
So thinking about like the systems, I mean, we always had systems, and I think that was one of the good things, but the systems were insane. I don't know if you remember, we had 4 points of data entry from Google Calendar to QuickBooks to a PDF to Dropbox. I mean, the amount of stuff to make the wheel turn was insane.
Yeah. As
you're seeing like, as we're growing as a franchise and you're seeing new guys come in, are like fill in the blank. Oh my gosh, you guys have no idea how valuable that is. Or I didn't have that when I started. You're probably looking at them going, I don't know if you know how good it is. Fill in some of that.
So we have a great program now that is able to encapsulate so many different things that between, keeping it's basically massive amounts of data entry for every one of our customers to the material we're using to everything. And it's all streamlined into one place where before, like you're saying, we had so many different avenues that like now if there's an issue with the program that we use, it doesn't even bother me in the slightest because I think because of my past history of like what I had to do. So yeah, I mean, that's one aspect. The other aspect is with me wearing all of those hats. There was no call center. There wasn't, like I said, it was me answering a phone at whatever time I could and my mailbox being completely stacked up and, being full. I couldn't take on any more voicemails because I'm on a job, can't answer the phone, whatever it is. Probably lost so many leads in that time period. So the fact that we have this call center that, I honestly, I don't even care what it costs. I would not
write that down. I'll be back.
Yeah, exactly. But seriously, like it is that valuable to me. And I mean, even I'll hear a lot of people try to hold off on an office person, like a great office admin in their own personal thing, not the call center. The most important thing in my business, and Michelle, hopefully you're listening to this. I mean, seriously, there's so much value in her and in what she does that it really, it allows me to be a better boss. It allows me to be, a better manager and everything else because she's so great at what she does. So, holding and pinching some pennies to not have that person in there is only a pain. It hurts. It really does.
Wow.
So that's
awesome.
You would say somebody that's doing that is definitely probably losing money.
Yeah.
By not having that position filled.
Absolutely. It's a huge negative. As much as you think that you're saving money, you're losing it somewhere.
Yeah.
Wow. That's great. I appreciate that. So I know you said that, man, you would have loved to wait 5 years, and and I appreciate that. And I also do just appreciate what you and Jeremiah did for us. We couldn't be who we are without you guys, because we weren't able to see what didn't work on a scale in Jersey and Virginia. I don't think we would have learned that from a corporate location and then franchised. No matter what, I think the first couple people were going to be in for a ride. Yeah. And I do appreciate, you and Jeremiah and everything that, as we made systems and we tried to say, hey guys, we're doing this over here, do this. It's like, yeah. And you've got a team. It's just me. In hindsight, it's like, man, it was a lot. And I know Ken and I just appreciate that greatly, because we would not have been able to build this franchise without you guys. So 10 years in the business, can you just tell us a little bit of how you've grown? Like when you think about who you were as a person, a business owner, all of that, from then till now, like what really stands out? Where have you really grown?
I think as far as the past 10 years, when I think of what stands out to me as, the real growth that I've experienced is just, I really feel like it's communication with people. I've met so many people in the past 10 years that I think without this business, I wouldn't have been in that many people's homes, talking with that many people, and just, having conversations that were, who knows what about. But I really feel like it has done something to me, that communicating even with the people who are on my team now, and, other business people or, current customers or clients that are coming through the door now. I feel like I have absolutely grown in confidence, just in, who I am as a business owner, and with my guys feeling like they're being led by somebody with confidence. 10 years of being in this business, you can't help but have, a bit of an understanding, obviously, about the gutter industry, but then just even how people are thinking and how they're working and how my guys are thinking. So yeah, definitely have grown in that area for sure. Communication is a huge one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, when you think of maybe the perfect size for your business, if it could be at what does it look like that you'll feel like you've accomplished, something good? What to you is success in the next couple years or whatever? Maybe it's 10 years, maybe it's 2 years. Where do you want your business to be that you're going to feel super good about it?
Well, when I think about my territory, and where I am in New Jersey, I was, it's funny. I just had this conversation with a guy yesterday, and he was asking me a similar question of just where do you see this going? What do you think is going to actually happen here, with the brothers? And I just said, in my territory, I feel like we should jump into being a $4 million a year business. And obviously to be there is going to be a lot of hard work, and it's going to require a lot of people. But I just think that we're in such an area, and I feel like with all the right people in place, the systems are there. We have people who are showing so much success who've been in business much longer than me here at the Brothers. And it just, it opens my mind to really see the big picture of this territory is going to explode. And really down the road, I do see that $3-4 million business. I mean,
wow.
It's going to be big. I do see fleets and,
wow.
It's cool even expressing this, because I feel like 2 years ago, it was more, how can I sell this business right now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was at a spot where I wanted to jump out and do, 100% ministry, get on, with a church or something like that. But now seeing what the business could be and open the door for me to really, have a freedom with my family, whether that's ministry or anything. It's really cool to see. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So you said something that I think would confuse most people
Mhm.
that, the level that you're at now, when you say, I want to be 3 or 4 million, most people think the opposite. They're like, no way. I don't want to be some huge company, because they feel like life gets harder. You said you want to be a $3 or $4 million company, and then that will give you the freedom. So from where you are now to there, it almost sounds like you're saying you expect life to be easier as the business grows. Talk about how that's possible.
Yeah. I think Jimmy Olang over in Allentown, when he was talking about race to replace,
Yep.
if you're growing a business and you're not replacing yourself, ultimately it is going to be so much work and so stressful. And, you're wearing a hat and working a ton of hours in a week. But if you're growing a team the way, it should be grown, and you have all of the people in place to where, this well-oiled machine is actually functioning properly, it should only make the driver, feel comfortable in this sweet Tesla. But really, I think it would be stressful if you had a large company like that with the wrong people in place.
Yeah, of course.
But with the right people in place, I feel like it would open the door of me being able to really, I think, put more on people's shoulders and expect a lot from them. But them to grab a hold of that as see the vision, we're moving forward, and everybody's excited about it.
That's great. I mean, I 100% agree. It's just, knowing like what you just said, even 2 years ago, or 3 or 4, that might have sounded like a nightmare, like a $3 million company. A lot of people are like, ugh, no, how much is payroll? 30 grand a week? No way. I can't do it.
Right.
I don't want that headache, but we continue to see the further you get past the 3 crews, the easier the business gets. And that's not just the gutter business. That's almost in any business. I look at landscapers, plumbers, all of that. The hardest part is getting to that 3 crews. And then it really does get easier to add the 4th, the 5th, the 6th. Obviously, with everything that you said, having the systems, the support, and really having the right team.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Well, it also goes to what we've been our philosophy on business for the last several years is that business really doesn't start until you hit $1 million, because what you're talking about is being able to hire talent that is going to be able to run these systems that we've created, this finely tuned-oiled machine. It can't be, you can't have it run unless you have the right people in the right places to share the insomnia, if you will, that business owners have when they're wearing all the hats as a self-employed person. Yeah. And bridging that gap from being self-employed to business owner, you really have to get to those 3 trucks, and you have to have depth in your field and depth in your sales team. But when you have that and you have passionate professionals in those areas like we see happening, it really makes business enjoyable, because everybody knows their role and knows what their part and the importance of their part. But they enjoy what they do too. I'm not hiring people that are fake salespeople. I have somebody in there that I don't have to go in there and micromanage that person. I don't have to go in and micromanage these guys because they're following the system, because they chose as a career to work outside and hang gutter, and they love it. They're passionate about our industry. And that's what I see the difference from 23-year-old Jonathan to 33-year-old Jonathan, is that you have grabbed the hold of the passion for the gutter industry, and you've bought into the vision of wanting to make an impact in your territory, to change it from a 1-star industry to a 5-star industry. Yeah. And that's awesome, because you're changing people's lives and making a difference, because that's what our system does. And that's what it's done in you. There's a big difference in who Jonathan is today than who Jonathan was back then. And that's because you've changed and adapted over the last 10 years to become a leader in business. Yeah. And you're impacting your community, not just, hanging gutters for people, but also for the people that are working for you.
It's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, being a $3 to $4 million company, I know how many feet that does require on the street and sales guys and other stuff, but I see what a great place the Brothers is for people to work, and thinking about me creating an opportunity for a lot of people to work there and enjoy a great company. And, I just think that's awesome. Not to just put me in a great spot, but to really be helpful to those who are around. And, that's, I was thinking about this the other day with, me being a lot of my life being ministry focused. I was talking to my dad who, obviously he's been a pastor for as long as I've been alive. And we were talking about ministry in the church. And I said, my ministry feels so much more in the homes of people that I'm going to while I'm working than just like being in a building on a Sunday, which is really cool because for so long I've just seen it the opposite way. But I just love the door of opportunity that the growing business, opens. So it's pretty cool.
That is awesome.
Great.
So that's basically it. That's our podcast today. And I just want to thank you, Jonathan. I mean, you were there from the beginning. I mean, you saw us when we were at the smallest, one of the smallest stages of our business, bringing in a salesperson, practicing your compensation, everything about it. For anybody listening, this was not smooth for a long time. We made tons of mistakes. We tried, but Ken always had huge vision. Probably, after the first few years, his vision just got crazy. He wanted to franchise before we had any business franchising, but that's always driven the business. And it's always kind of made us try things and move forward. And Jonathan, to be part of that and to be so gracious with all the changes, I mean, that's huge. Everything that we tried, he was always like, all right, man, that's awesome. Let's do it. We're going to make it work. And that was huge for us to be able to do that and have you. And I really mean it when I say we wouldn't be who we are today if it wasn't for you. And I have to obviously include Jeremiah on that. You guys were huge in there. So we've got, all of our franchisees, all of our people that are with us, all have unique stories, and we're going to continue to bring them on and highlight them. And hopefully we can all learn something, and you can either apply this to your business or anything that you're doing. I really do feel the things that we cover, the nuggets that you may get, I don't care if you're in the trades or you're a chiropractor, a lot of the stuff is all the same. We're dealing with people, we're building vision, and we just want to, do more and do better. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you implement at least one or two nuggets from this episode that will give you the confidence to grow. Subscribe to our podcast to stay updated and grow with the bros.